This is Futaro Yusugi, a smart boy who is daydreaming about his wedding day, where he will meet his future bride. One day, as he goes to the school's cafeteria, he accidentally encounters Itsuki Nakano, who decides to join him at his usually solitary lunch table. While they eat together, Futaro is focused on studying for his upcoming exam. Intrigued by his dedication, Itsuki takes a peek at his recent test paper and is shocked to discover that he scored perfectly. Impressed by his academic abilities, she asks Futaro to assist her with her studies and even offers to share her lunch. However, Futaro responds rudely, criticizing her for potentially gaining weight, which upsets her. Meanwhile, Futaro receives a call from his younger sister, Reiha, informing him that their father has arranged for him to work as a part-time tutor for a wealthy family. To his surprise, he discovers that the family he is supposed to tutor is none other than Itsuki's. Determined to apologize for his earlier behavior, Futaro sets out to find Itsuki but instead meets her four other girls, Ichika, Nino, Yotsuba, and Miku. When Futaro arrives at Itsuki's apartment, he reveals that he is her tutor, which disappoints her. His surprise grows when he discovers that all five girls are identical quintuplets. As Futaro attempts to hold their first study session together, only Yotsuba shows enthusiasm and actively participates in studying. He quickly realizes that all five of them appear academically hopeless. As he attempts to drink, Nino spikes Futaro's water with sleeping pills, causing him to lose consciousness. As soon as he wakes up, he finds Itsuki by his side in a taxi, accompanying him home. Futaro then introduces Itsuki to his younger sister, Reiha, and they end up having dinner with the Yusugi family. It becomes clear that the Yusugi family is having financial difficulties. Moved by the Yusugi family's situation, Itsuki decides to give Futaro a chance to tutor all five girls, which excites him, and promises her that he will help them all graduate. In their next tutoring session, Futaro challenges the quintuplets to a test, promising that if they pass, he will never speak to them again. Motivated to prove themselves, they accept the challenge, but unfortunately, they all fail, resulting in a total score of 100. The following day, Futaro asks the girls a history question, but none of them can answer it. He soon realizes that only Miku answered that question correctly on her test. Before he can ask about it, Yotsuba excitedly interrupts their conversation, showing off her test with a 0 score. Meanwhile, Ichika talks about the importance of experiencing love in their youth, which makes Miku feel embarrassed and awkwardly leave the group behind. Unaware of Miku's true feelings, Yotsuba and Ichika conclude that Miku must be in love with someone. Back in his own class, Futaro finds a note from Miku inviting him to meet on the roof after school, leading him to believe she wants to confess her feelings. As Miku arrives at the rooftop, Futaro initially misinterprets Miku's admission about the earlier question as a love confession. However, he soon discovers that Miku is secretly interested in the history of warlords and has a crush on bearded old men. Recognizing Miku's interest, Futaro takes advantage of the opportunity to promote his tutoring lesson, emphasizing his knowledge of warlords. Miku accepts his offer, but when he invites her to study, she decides to run away from him. In his attempt to catch up to her, Futaro meets Yotsuba, who claims to have seen Miku running. However, as he follows Yotsuba's lead, he accidentally runs into her again, revealing that Miku had cleverly disguised herself as Yotsuba to escape. Futaro then continues the chase, until they are both exhausted and give up on running. To make amends with Miku, Futaro offers her favorite matcha soda as a peace offering. He also reveals that her test score was the highest of the five sisters and that each of them correctly answered different questions. Using this as motivation, Futaro refuses to give up on a depressed Miku. So the next day, when Yotsuba and Futaro are studying together, Miku suddenly appears and entrusts Futaro with the responsibility of helping her graduate, which he gladly accepts it. Futaro arrives at the quintuplets' apartment for their next tutoring session, but their study plans are quickly disrupted by Nino's intervention. Nino informs Yotsuba that she is needed to play for the athletic team, and she, unable to refuse Nino's request, immediately leaves to attend her team's activities. Nino then reminds Ichika that she has work, causing her to flee. Finally, Nino suggests that Itsuki find a quieter place to study, to which Itsuki agrees. This leaves Futaro and Miku alone. Taking advantage of the situation, Nino challenges Miku to a cooking competition, with the condition that if Nino wins, they will stop studying. As the cooking competition begins, Nino's dish proves to be more visually appealing than Miku's. However, Futaro, serving as the food judge, finds it difficult to choose a clear winner because both dishes have their own uniqueness. So Futaro declares the contest a tie, praising both Miku's and Nino's efforts and flavors. Miku's cheeks flush with embarrassment and happiness at the outcome, while Nino storms off in annoyance. As Futaro prepares to leave the apartment, he realizes he has forgotten his flashcards. Miku allows him to return to the apartment to retrieve them. However, he comes across a towel-clad Nino, who mistakes him for Miku in her blurry vision without her contact lenses. As he tries to run away, Nino expresses her rage at Futaro, blaming him for destroying their sisterly relationship. Nino's hand accidentally hits the bookshelf, causing a stack of books to fall in her direction, which Futaro quickly protects her from harm. Unfortunately, the moment is captured by Itsuki, who misunderstands the situation and takes a photograph. The other sisters return home and hold a court-like meeting to decide whether Futaro should continue as their tutor after the incident. Mika comes to Futaro's defense, helping him protest his innocence. Following a closer examination of Itsuki's photograph, Ichika and Itsuki agree that Futaro was indeed protecting Nino from the falling books. Nino remains unimpressed but walks away, upset by her sister's statement. As Futaro intends to return home, he finds that Nino has been locked out of the apartment because she has forgotten her key. Refusing to ask the others for help, she stubbornly waits outside. Futaro ends up accompanying her and uses the opportunity to tell her that she truly cares about her four sisters. Realizing the depth of her love for her family, Nino declares that she won't accept Futaro, even if it means her other sisters will hate her. The next day, Futaro receives his tutoring payment from Itsuki for the previous 2 days. However, he attempts to refuse the payment, believing that he has not succeeded in getting all of them to study effectively. Itsuki, on the other hand, insists that Futaro's presence is already having a positive impact on all 5 of them and demands that he accept his payment. Reiha then steps in and persuades them both to take her to the arcade to relax and have fun together. They enjoy playing games and taking silly pictures in a photo booth. As the sun begins to set, they happen to run into the other 4 quintuplets, who are all dressed in yukatas for the upcoming festival. Yotsuba invites Reiha to join them in watching the fireworks, which Futaro agrees to on the condition that they first finish their homework. Later, at the festival, the quintuplets are all having a great time together. Ichika teases Futaro about the girls possibly not wearing anything under their yukata. However, her enjoyment is interrupted when she receives a mysterious phone call, looking surprised by the invitation to meet later that night. Soon after, Reiha arrives with a bag of fish, and Yotsuba remarks that Reiha would be her little sister if she were to marry Futaro someday. As they walk towards the fireworks show, Mika tells Futaro that watching the fireworks together brings back memories of their late mother. However, Nino suddenly becomes separated from the group in the crowded festival. Futaro grabs her hand and guides her to the rooftop she had rented for a better view of the fireworks. As they rush to the rooftop, they notice that the other girls have failed to meet at their meeting point because Nino is the only one who knows where it is. So Futaro decides to assist Nino in finding the rest of her sisters. Futaro comes across Ichika first, and to his surprise, his hand is being held by a mustachioed stranger who questions their relationship. Futaro finds an answer to the question at that moment, but both the stranger and Ichika disappear, leaving him surprised. Soon after, Futaro meets Miku, who informs him that she has injured her foot. Showing his caring nature, Futaro helps her bandage her foot and offers his hand to help her walk, which brings a smile to her face. Soon after, 2 women approach them and conduct a survey about their relationship, assuming that Futaro and Miku are a couple. To avoid any misunderstandings, Futaro clarifies that they are simply friends, which unexpectedly upsets Miku. Miku suddenly notices Itsuki walking alone, prompting Futaro to rush after her. However, as he guides Itsuki towards Miku, Ichika suddenly intervenes, grabbing Futaro's hand and secretly pulling him away from Itsuki. Ichika leads him into an alley and asks that he keep their previous encounter hidden from the others. She also explains to Futaro that she received a call from work, which means she won't be able to watch the fireworks with her sisters this year. As she tries to leave him, Ichika notices the mustachioed man from earlier and hugs Futaro to hide her face from him. She also expresses her disappointment with Futaro for not considering the sisters to be his friends, as well as how his words have hurt her feelings. Feeling guilty about hurting Miku's feelings earlier, Futaro realizes the impact of his words on the sisters. Meanwhile, the man searching for Ichika misidentifies Miku and confronts her. Futaro quickly stops him and claims to be her partner. It turns out that the man is Ichika's agent, revealing her secret job as a talented young actress. Futaro tries to persuade Ichika to stay, but she shows him that she has an important audition for a bigger role in a movie. She gives him her script and invites him to be her practice partner. As they practice together, Futaro is impressed by Ichika's acting talent and skill. He grows increasingly proud of her and the work she puts into her career. Ichika arrives late for her audition, but the judges allow her to perform. During her performance, Ichika imagines herself speaking with Futaro and expresses her gratitude for having him as her tutor, and the judges are impressed with her performance. After Ichika finishes her audition, she finds Futaro waiting for her, but he's sleeping with his eyes open due to exhaustion. He then takes Ichika to the park, where her sisters are waiting with a mini fireworks set. Ichika apologizes to her sisters for inadvertently destroying their original plan, but they are understanding and remind each other of their promise to face challenges together as a united sister. As the girls joyfully start their mini fireworks display, Futaro decides to stay a little longer with them. Ichika takes this opportunity to approach him and express her gratitude for his support. She promises to cooperate more during their study sessions to repay him for everything he has done for them. However, she notices that Futaro has fallen asleep again, exhausted by the events of the day. Not wanting to disturb his sleep, Ichika gently rests his head on her lap, silently thanking him. As the midterm exams approach, Futaro tries to invite Itsuki to join his study group in order to help her improve her grades. However, Itsuki prefers to study with her teacher rather than with him. Refusing to give up, Futaro invites Nino to his study group, but he embarrasses her in front of her friends and receives a slap from her. During the group study sessions, Futaro is pleasantly surprised to see Miku studying English, her least favorite subject, in an effort to make him proud. On her way home, Itsuki approaches Futaro and hands him her phone, revealing that their father has warned him that if any of his daughters fail their exams, he will be fired. Despite her recent poor grade on a quiz, Itsuki insists on studying alone, to which he scolds her for being stubborn and declares that they will never study together again, a decision he quickly regrets. Back at the Nakano apartment, Futaro and the study group try to relieve their stress from studying by playing board games. As Nino tries to kick Futaro out, Ichika insists on staying overnight because he promised to help them with their studies. During a bath, Nino pretends to be Itsuki in order to learn that Futaro's job is on the line if any of them fail their exams, which Nino finds interesting. As they return to their studies, Miku curiously asks about the types of girls Futaro prefers. He playfully reveals his top 3 preferences, creating a friendly competition among the girls to win his favor. After they finish their assignment, Futaro reveals that the top 3 qualities he looks for in a girl are being always cheerful, being good at cooking, and caring about her brother, whom he refers to as his sister. Miku realizes that these qualities are the opposite of her own, causing some introspection. Ichika then takes Futaro to the balcony for a private conversation, advising him to get along with Itsuki despite their differences. She admits that Itsuki is currently pushing her own limits and finding it challenging. Futaro praises her for being wise as an older sister, causing Ichika to blush. As the night continues, Futaro ends up sleeping in Miku's bed, while Miku shares a room with Ichika. In the middle of the night, Miku forgets about the arrangement and returns to her own room. The next morning, Futaro wakes up to find himself next to a sleeping Miku. Meanwhile, during breakfast, the girls notice Miku did not sleep in Ichika's room the night before. Yotsuba starts looking for Miku, and Itsuki reveals that she's still upset with Futaro after their recent fight. Ichika comes up with an idea to disguise herself as Miku and talks to Futaro playfully, and Nino joins in on the fun. However, when Futaro tries to sneak out of the room, he is confronted by Itsuki disguised as Miku. He is not fooled by her trick and rushes back into Miku's room, leaving Itsuki disappointed. Later, when Futaro, Ichika, and Yotsuba go to the library, Ichika pretends to have left her pencil case at home so that Futaro can speak privately with Itsuki. Futaro arrives at the apartment and runs into Miku on the way. He lies to her, telling her that he slept on the living room floor to save both of them from embarrassment. Inside, he discovers Itsuki sleeping and wearing Miku's headphones. Pretending she is Miku, Futaro gets her to talk more openly, and they apologize for their previous fight and study together. Suddenly, Itsuki and the other girls inform Futaro that she received an excellent score on her test, which he considers a huge success, but it's only a dream. Futaro stays another night to help the quintuplets study for their midterm exams, but they end up being late for class. Yotsuba manages to enter the school without being caught, so Futaro comes up with a plan to use her ribbon to make the security guard believe it's just one girl going in and out of the school. However, the plan fails, and Futaro is escorted to the principal's office while the girls sneak inside unnoticed. Despite the stressful exam period, the girls do their best to pass. However, as the midterm exam results approach, they realize that each of them has only passed one subject out of 5. Futaro is worried about losing his job as their tutor. When her father calls to ask about his daughter's test results, Nino picks up the phone and tricks their father. She explains that they avoided failing all subjects by each passing a different subject under Futaro's supervision. Their father is impressed and decides to keep Futaro as their tutor. As a reward for their hard work and determination, Futaro offers to take the quintuplets out for celebratory parfaits. Later that night, Futaro is concerned about the girls' poor exam results, but his father reassures him that they will improve with time, just as he did. Reiha interrupts their conversation, curious about Futaro's past. As a result, his father pulls out his handbook and explains how he transformed himself after meeting his first love. The next day, Miku serves Futaro and Yotsuba some burned croquettes. Futaro pretends to enjoy them in order to spare Miku's feelings, but Yotsuba is honest about not finding them delicious. Miku is determined to make better croquettes, but Futaro overeats and collapses as a result. Miku rushes to get medicine, while Futaro scolds Yotsuba for being too straightforward about Miku's cooking. Nino and Itsuki plan to go out for lunch together, but Futaro asks Yotsuba to make sure they both stay and study, even if it means telling a little lie. Yotsuba invents a story about Futaro having a deadly disease that prevents him from moving and uses ketchup to make it seem real. Itsuki looks after Futaro, while Nino prepares some porridge for him. Futaro appreciates Yotsuba's assistance. However, things take an unexpected turn when Nino steps on the ketchup and spills the hot porridge, which ends up falling on Futaro's face. As he quickly gets up and complains about the heat, they both notice that he's lying about the deadly disease. Later, when the two of them are alone at home, Yotsuba takes an unexpected but bold step. She suddenly reaches out and grabs Futaro's head, staring him down. Yotsuba confesses to him that she has feelings for him, leaving him speechless for a moment. However, Yotsuba dismisses her confession as a joke, leading him to lose trust in her. In the library, Futaro shows off his scary costume to the girls, where he's been assigned to be the upcoming school camp's test of courage. Yotsuba tells the story of their school camp, where dancing around the campfire is said to bring the destiny of living together, which they find unrealistic. Suddenly, his phone rings with a message from Ichika. When he opens it, he finds a candid photograph of him, sleeping peacefully off with his head on Ichika's lap. To keep this photo private, he must collect all of the quintuplets' contact. However, while Futaro tries to get all of the girls' contact information, he forgets to take his student handbook because he is curious about Yotsuba's sudden leave. Yotsuba declines an invitation to join the school's women's basketball club team, which surprises Futaro. To retrieve his student handbook, Futaro goes to Nino's room, where she accidentally looks at a photo of a blonde, tough-looking guy who catches Nino's attention. Futaro lies and claims it's a relative, and they reminisce about childhood photos. It turns out that one of the quintuplets met Futaro during a study tour in Kyoto 5 years ago, and she is depicted in the other half of the folded picture in Futaro's handbook. The next day, Ichika asks Miku to disguise herself as her because she has work to do. At the class, Ichika's classmate, Maheta, asks Ichika to dance with him at the campfire because he likes her. However, Maheta begins to suspect that she's not Ichika because of her appearance, but Futaro steps in to help Miku out of trouble. Ichika then steps in and pretends that she and Futaro are dating. So Maheta dares them to dance together at the campfire if they are truly a couple. Back at home, Futaro discovers Reiha, his younger sister, suffering from a fever. He chooses to look after her instead of preparing for the school camp. The next day, Futaro's father arrives and discovers that Futaro is still caring for Reiha. He informs his father that he missed the bus and decides to study at home for the next 3 days. Reiha, on the other hand, gets up and tells him that she is fully recovered and that he should go to the school camp. Itsuki appears unexpectedly and leads him outside, where the other 4 quintuplets are waiting in their private car. Due to bad weather, they get stuck on a snowy road and end up staying in a hotel. Because there is only one room available, the quintuplets gather and argue over who will sleep next to Futaro. To make it fair, they all agree to sleep alongside him. The next morning, Ichika wakes up early and is captivated by Futaro's sleeping appearance. However, when Itsuki enters the room and sees them, she quickly goes outside again. Later, their teachers is surprised to find them staying at the same hotel, so they ride a school bus to the camping site together, and Itsuki begins to wonder who the girl was who tried to kiss Futaro because all the quintuplets were dressed similarly, and she mistakenly thought the girl was kissing him. When they arrive at the school camp, Yatsuba helps the boys by chopping wood, Ichika helps organize various items, Itsuki serves as the timekeeper for her cooking, and Miko collaborates with Nino to cook miso. Meanwhile, Futaro finds himself in a conversation with Maheta about finding a girlfriend. Taking advantage of the situation, Futaro suggests that Maheta invite a girl to the test of courage. As the night falls, Futaro and Yatsuba dress up as ghosts to scare the others, but Ichika and Miku aren't scared because they already know their tricks. Futaro warns them to be cautious because there is a dangerous cliff nearby. Meanwhile, Itsuki and Nino are terrified while walking through the forest. Suddenly, Futaro appears to scare them, causing them both to run in the wrong direction. Concerned for their safety, Futaro locates Nino near a cliff's edge and saves her from falling. Nino mistakes Futaro as the boy in the photo from his handbook due to his blonde wig. Taking advantage of the misunderstanding, Futaro pretends to be Kintaro and tries to act rebellious in order to make Nino dislike him, but to his surprise, Nino finds it charming. Seeing a small bruise on his head, Nino takes care of him and puts a patterned bandage on his wound. Nino then invites Kintaro to join her for a dance around the campfire, giving the impression that they are a couple. Later, Futaro helps Ichika to carry the wood from the warehouse. Futaro then advises Ichika to call off their dance, encouraging her to settle things with Maheta on her own. However, Ichika reveals her true feelings and sheds tears, as she genuinely wanted to dance with Futaro. As they hide from a group of girls, Futaro lends his jacket to Ichika to hide her tears. The door suddenly closes, and they realize they are locked in the warehouse together. As they are trapped inside the warehouse, Futaro decides to start a small campfire with some nearby wood to keep them warm. Ichika opens up to Futaro about her desire to take a break from school and pursue her acting career. He congratulates her on having such ambitions and opportunities to pursue what she truly enjoys. While they sit by the small campfire, Ichika invites Futaro to dance by themselves, which Futaro agrees to do. However, he shares with her the legend of the campfire and its importance to Miku, and Ichika understands why it means so much to her sister. Feeling guilty about the incident and how it may have affected Miku, Ichika accidentally causes a large log to collapse, and Futaro quickly comes to her rescue. The fallen log activates both the anti-burglar alarm and the fire sprinkler system, soaking them both completely. When Miku and Itsuki arrive, they demand an explanation, but they are skeptical of the story. The next day, Ichika falls sick, and Futaro decides to join the others to go skiing. As Futaro tries to learn to ski, Ichika manages to slip away, making sure Futaro doesn't reveal anything about the incident. However, Futaro can't ski, which leads to him crashing into a tree, causing him to accidentally lose the bandage. Nino notices it and assumes Futaro is Kentaro. So he runs away from her and seeks shelter in a small igloo, where he meets Miku, who is upset. Futaro shows his understanding of Miku and her sisters, and Miku realizes that he really cares for all of them. As he leaves the igloo, Miku pulls out her phone and calls Ichika, telling her that she has decided to stand up for her feelings and that they should both hold Futaro's hands during the event. However, Ichika is taken aback by Miku's confession. Futaro starts feeling unwell, suspecting that he caught a fever from his sister and passed it on to Ichika. Concerned about Itsuki's disappearance, Futaro and the other girls set out to find her, even if it meant going to dangerous places. While riding the ropeway to find Itsuki, Futaro cleverly unmasks Ichika, revealing Itsuki behind the mask. He knew that Ichika wouldn't call him by his last name. Unfortunately, Futaro's fever worsens, causing him to collapse on Itsuki's shoulder. As Futaro's health gets worse, Futaro's teacher leads him back to his room to rest. Before he enters his room, Futaro informs Nino that Kentaro is unable to attend due to an unexpected problem, forcing her to attend the campfire alone. Meanwhile, Miko confesses her feelings for Futaro to Ichika, expressing her desire to pursue him without holding back for her sister's sake. They understand each other and share an emotional moment. Yotsuba and Itsuki discover Futaro's diary, in which Futaro has written some good stories to take home to Reiha. They realize that Futaro was looking forward to the trip and didn't want it to end in misery. When his teacher sleeps next to Futaro, his student informs him that the campfire event is almost over and asks for his assistance. Itsuki tries to sneak into the room to care for him. As she turns on the light, she is surprised to see that all four sisters have done the same, each concerned about Futaro's condition. They approach him as the countdown to the end of the campfire event begins outside. The story then jumps ahead several years to Futaro's wedding ceremony. Futaro forgets his wedding ring at home and calls Reiha for help. When she arrives, he is wearing the charm bracelet she gave him 5 years ago, which makes her happy. It is revealed that all 5 girls held hands with Futaro around the campfire years ago, and one of them is the one he is marrying. The identity of the bride remains a mystery, leaving the question of which of the quintuplets has captured Futaro's heart. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching.